Asato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityurma amritam gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. Lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness into light. Lead us from death to immortality. Om. Peace, peace, peace. Am I audible to everybody here? At the back, everywhere? All right. So, namaskar and good morning to everybody. Thank you for turning up. As you know, the text we have chosen for this retreat is Shankaracharya's AtmaBodha, which literally means self-knowledge. It's a textbook of Advaita Vedanta. Vedanta is spiritual knowledge. It's the spiritual knowledge we get from the Upanishads. In Sanskrit, there is a phrase, Vedanta Nama Upanishad Pramanam. Vedanta is the source of Upanishads are the source of spiritual knowledge. The source of spiritual knowledge called Upanishads, that is Vedanta. So technically that's the precise definition of Vedanta. But not just the Upanishads themselves. There are, in fact, more popular than the Upanishads is the Bhagavad Gita. In fact, if you were to ask for one book which is representative of Hinduism in general and of Vedanta, it would be the Bhagavad Gita. By the way, when you hear Hinduism and Vedanta, you might think, what's the relationship between them? Vedanta, you can conceive of Vedanta as basically the philosophy of Hinduism. So whenever you come across Hinduism, in general again, you would expect, you would in fact see some Vedanta at the core of it. So if you go to a Hindu temple, you come across so many deities. But if you probe further, the temple, the particular sect of Hinduism that runs that temple will probably have some school of Vedanta as its philosophy. So Vedanta is basically the philosophy of Hinduism. The word itself comes from the Veda. The fundamental texts of Hinduism are the Vedas, and Vedanta literally means the end of the Vedas. Now it need not be literally the end of the text called the Vedas. What it means is Anta in the sense of end, in the sense of the highest teachings, the final teachings. In Sanskrit there's a word Siddhanta, final conclusion. So the highest final teachings, conclusive teachings of the Vedas, that's called Vedanta. And that's embodied in these texts called Upanishads. And the teachings of the Upanishads have been retaught, reformulated and retaught by Sri Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita itself is basically the essence of the Upanishads. There is another text which is not so well known but very important for Vedanta. It's called the Brahma Sutras. So codifying the entire system of Vedanta in a series of sutras, aphoristic sayings. So these are the foundation of Vedanta. Textually, if one wants to know what is Vedanta textually, it is the Upanishads, it is the Bhagavad Gita, it is the Brahma Sutra, fundamentally Upanishads. Because both Bhagavad Gita and Brahma Sutra are based on the Upanishads. And then what happened was, various schools of Vedanta arose. So Vedanta is not just Advaita Vedanta. This is a text of Advaita Vedanta. But Vedanta is not just Advaita Vedanta. There are multiple schools of Vedanta. There is Advaita Vedanta, which we are going to study. But there is also Vishishta Advaita Vedanta, there is Dvaita Vedanta, there is Dvaita Advaita Vedanta, there is Shuddha Advaita Vedanta, there is the Achintya Bheda Veda Vedanta, and so on. Number of classical schools of Vedanta, all based on the same texts but different interpretations. The school which we will follow is Advaita Vedanta. Now, Advaita Vedanta has a number of texts of its own. Upanishads, Gita, Brahma Sutra, they are shared across all the schools of Vedanta. But Advaita Vedanta also has its own body of literature. And there are texts like this called the Prakarana Granthas. So self-knowledge, AtmaBodha, is one such Prakarana Grantha. Prakarana means introductory, though all Prakarana Granthas are not introductory. Something that introduces you to the system of Advaita Vedanta. Famously, there is Drigdrishya Viveka, which is one of my favorites. There is Aparoksha Anubhuti, also by Shankaracharya. There is Vivek Chudamani, also by Shankaracharya. There are texts like Vedanta Sara, which is in fact truly introductory, because when as monks we are introduced to Vedanta, Advaita Vedanta, we start off by studying Vedanta Sara. One such book, introductory book in the system of Advaita Vedanta, is Self-Knowledge, AtmaBodha, written by Adi Shankaracharya. Adi Shankaracharya, of course, is crucial, pivotal in the entire system of Advaita Vedanta. Not that he founded it. Some people loosely refer to Adi Shankaracharya as the founder. He is not the founder, but he is what is called Bhashyakara, the great commentator. In fact, in Uttarakhand, in the Himalayas, where there are monks who study the system of Advaita Vedanta, Shankaracharya is called Bhagavan Bhashyakara, the Lord commentator. So he wrote the foundational commentaries on Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita, Brahma Sutra. So what we see today as classical Advaita Vedanta owes most of great deal to Adi Shankaracharya. But not just Adi Shankaracharya. There are numerous teachers who have come post Shankara. So Advaita Vedanta is not static. It's not something that one young monk 1200 years ago coming from Kerala, what he did, what he wrote and taught, that's Advaita Vedanta. No. It's a system which has developed over a millennia, especially in the centuries following Shankaracharya. So in this vast literature, we're going to take up this self-knowledge, AtmaBodha, written by Shankaracharya. It's a small text, but the advantage is this. These texts, they summarize the entire teaching of Advaita Vedanta. So if you go through this one text, for example, you know the essential teachings of Advaita Vedanta. You don't need supplementary texts. It will give you the essence. Of course, you keep reading other texts, it helps us. It gives us the same teaching in various different ways. And the teaching of Advaita Vedanta is also very simple, very elegant. Tattvamasi, you are that, you are Brahman. So you are that, you are Brahman. There's an ultimate reality, existence, consciousness, bliss, an ocean of being, consciousness, fulfillment or bliss. And the teaching is, you are that. If we realize that, if it becomes a living reality in our lives, then all our problems are solved. See, the goal of Advaita Vedanta, in common with the goal of all the Vedanta schools, and in fact the goal of all schools of Indian philosophy, in Sanskrit they are known as darshana. Indian philosophy, the word for philosophy is darshana. Darshana literally means seeing, to see. But of course it does not mean seeing with these eyes. It means to understand or to realize. Darshana. It's an aside. It's not relevant, but I can just like a footnote. When we study philosophy, Western philosophy, so the word philosophy itself is usually translated as philosophia, love of wisdom. I remember our teacher, when we were young monastic trainees, our teacher who introduced us to Western philosophy, he said, my dear monks, or would-be monks, we were novices at that time, this is not the same as darshana. Philosophy, love of wisdom, is philosophical thinking about certain subjects, whereas darshana is the realization of some ultimate truth, or to see some ultimate truth. And I thought so, and that's how it's usually introduced, that's how it's usually taught. But it's not true. It's not true. Much later, only a few years ago, in an introductory book on Western thought, written by Luc Ferry, a French philosopher, who wrote a history of thought, by which he meant Western thought, where he says, philosophy is not the... By the way, you will appreciate this because you're in Canada. So the French have a very distinct way of looking at things. So when the French are talking about Western philosophy, you can be sure about getting a new perspective of Western philosophy. Here you have the Anglophone culture and the French culture together in Canada. You have this advantage. So there Luc Ferry says, philosophy is not the right term. Philosophy is not the right term. The right term is, he says, theory. Theory. And then he goes to the Latin roots of the word theory, where theos and orao, he splits it up. You know what it means, theory? Seeing the ultimate reality. Literally. Theos means, actually later it came to mean God in Christianity, but seeing the ultimate reality. Literally the same word, darshana and theory. Okay, anyway, back to our... what does darshana, what is the goal of all these darshanas? What is the goal of all Indian philosophy, of all these darshanas? It is nothing short of overcoming suffering and attainment of fulfillment. Overcoming suffering in Sanskrit, atyantika dukkha nivritti. Say, but we are overcoming suffering all the time. I feel thirsty, I drank water just now. Didn't I overcome my suffering or my need? Didn't I fulfill it? Yes, but that's temporary. That's only partial. Is there a possibility of overcoming suffering completely, in some way, some deep, lasting way? And Indian philosophy says, yes, there is. Attainment of fulfillment in Sanskrit, Paramananda Prapti. Attainment of ultimate bliss or happiness or fulfillment. Is it possible? Is it at all possible? And Vedanta, in common with all other Indian philosophies, including Buddhist and Jaina philosophies and all of them, says yes, it is possible. So this is the goal of all the Indian philosophies, with maybe the possible exception of the Charvakas, the materialists. They have been naughty all throughout, even today. So, but otherwise, all other philosophies, no matter how much they differ amongst each other, they all say it is possible to attain peace, fulfillment. It is possible to overcome suffering. Heinrich Zimmer, one of the greatest Indologists, he said the philosophies of India they're not pessimistic, they're optimistic. They got to keep talking about suffering and overcoming suffering as if raining on your parade. But they're optimistic because they all say that it can be done. It's possible. What's the proof? It's not just saying that it's possible. What's the proof? The proof is enlightened people, saints, sages, in all religions, in all civilizations throughout history. There have been this category of people who, if you notice their lives, they're all very different from each other, but one thing is common to all of them. They don't grumble. I often say that if you're enlightened, don't be in a hurry to claim enlightenment. If you're enlightened, then you lose the right to grumble. You can't complain anymore. There are these people who seem to have found something that gives them very deep happiness, deep peace, which is very evident. If you are lucky enough to come across such a person, you will feel uplifted. That's one of the signs of coming across an enlightened person. You will feel uplifted. You will feel more purer, more sublime, a greater view of life. It's as if you're suddenly lifted above the clouds. When flying in an aeroplane, it rises above the cloud layer. Suddenly you see the vast blue sky and the sun shining. It's brilliant. It's like that, the presence of such a person. So that's the proof. The proof is it is possible. Thousands of people have done it throughout human history, and we too can. Not only we too can, we must. According to Vedanta, that's the goal of human life. The goal of human life is to become enlightened. The goal of human life is God realization. As Vivekananda put it, the manifestation of the divinity already within us. That's the purpose. That's what we are all trying to do. One might say that, no, I've never heard of this. It's the first time I'm hearing about it. No. Whatever we are trying to do in life, you may be seeking money, you may be seeking pleasure, you may be seeking power, you may be seeking artistic fulfillment and creativity, or you may not be seeking anything, just want to lie down in your hammock and enjoy the good weather. All of that is a search for fulfillment, happiness, peace. Do it wisely, you are spiritual. do it otherwisely, you're just living life. That's what life is. Aurobindo famously said, life itself is yoga. Life itself is yoga. Alright, so now we have this book, AtmaBodha, self-knowledge. This is one of the introductory texts. There are many such introductory texts, as I mentioned. Some of them are not introductory, like Panchadashi, Naishkarmya Siddhi of Sureshwaracharya, Panchadashi of Vidyaranya. Then Shankaracharya himself, he wrote a book called Upadesha Sahasri. So these books are also prakaranas, but they are sort of middle level. I mean, they are not basic introductory. They are more in depth. And then there is another category of books which we need not be bothered with today. They are called Vada Granthas, dialectical works. So, attack, counter-attack, refutation, counter-refutation, arguments. Books like Khandana Khanda Khadya, which translates into the cookies of refutation. Khanda Khadya means sweets, in Bengali mishti. The sweets of refutation. Sri Harsha, 1000 years ago written. Advaita Siddhi, the establishment of non-duality, Madhusudan Saraswati. Chitsukhi, Pratyak Tattva Pradipika, another book. So these are called Vada Granthas. These are dialectical works. Somebody said they are brain fryers. You fry your brain if you try to read them. But anyway, luckily we are not interested in that today. We are interested in this small book. It's only 68 verses and we won't be able to complete it. I would do it an injustice if I try to complete it in 6 classes today and tomorrow. What we will do is, but we will cover the essential concepts and the practice also. So we will do that. Alright. I haven't started yet. Let's just jump into it. Before that, one word about the name of the book. AtmaBodha, self-knowledge. This is the essential thing in Advaita Vedanta. What are we trying to do in Advaita Vedanta? In a bhakti tradition, what are you trying to do? You're trying to love God. You're trying to love God. You're trying to even know God through loving God. In Patanjali Yoga Sutras, what are you trying to do? You're trying to meditate, focus. Here in Advaita Vedanta, what are you trying to do? You're trying to know yourself. What good does that do? One might say, I have my CV, I can read my own CV. That's what's knowing myself. No, we are not talking about your story, your achievements, your life story. We are not talking about even the body. We are going to talk about who or what you really are. And the claim in Advaita Vedanta is that we do not know what we are. So we do not know what we are. This is the big claim in Advaita Vedanta. That we are deeply mistaken about what we know about ourselves. Or what we know about ourselves is just the surface. As Vivekananda said, we have to go from lower truth to higher truth. So what we know about ourselves is lower truth. Frankly, from an Advaitic perspective, it's just wrong. It's false. And this correction, real self-knowledge, is what Advaita Vedanta aims at. What good will it do? Because the promise is, you are none other than the ultimate reality of this universe. You are limitless existence, limitless consciousness, and limitless fulfillment or bliss. Sat, Chit, Ananda. This is what you are. And if you would come to know it not just by reading it, but actually feel it. Just the way I feel that I am this body, this person sitting here in front of you. This seems obvious to me. I don't need to read it in a book. That I am this person. Just this guy. This doesn't seem, you don't have to read it in a book, and it seems quite obvious, a living fact. In that way, if we can come to know that I am limitless existence, consciousness, bliss, it will solve all your problems. It will achieve the goal. The goal, dukkha nivritti, transcending sorrow. Ananda prapti, attainment of fulfillment, that we will get. So self-knowledge is the goal in Advaita Vedanta. In bhakti, what is the goal? Love of God. That's the way. That's the way. In meditation, what is the goal of the way? It's samadhi. In Advaita Vedanta, what is the way? It is self-knowledge. Alright. Now, a little further. AtmaBodha, self-knowledge. Atma, self. Bodha, knowledge. But according to Advaita Vedanta, Atman is knowledge or consciousness. Aware Atman. What's the nature of Atman? Satchidanand. Chit means consciousness, awareness. And Bodha also means awareness. If you translate it from Sanskrit to English, it will become awareness, awareness. Consciousness, consciousness. Atma Bodha. Atman is consciousness. Bodha is consciousness or awareness. What's the difference? What's the point here? Atman is consciousness as the ultimate reality. In Sanskrit, Swarupa Jnana. Your nature as Jnana or as consciousness. Awareness is our nature. Who am I? I'm awareness. See, who am I is a popular question. But immediately what it evokes is, some college kid, to the horror of his parents, dropping out of college. Why? I'm going to find out who I am. I'm in a search for myself. Not that kind of search. That's good. You want to find out, who you are. You're a musician, are you a good person? So that's the way of discovering about something about yourself. But something you're discovering about your personality, about your nature of the body-mind. Here in Advaita Vedanta, the quest is deeper. Not the body, not the mind, not even what kind of person you are. Advaita Vedanta wants to tell you are not a person. You are something impersonal. You are a limitless impersonal principle. The discovery of that is called self-knowledge. So that's the nature of the self, Atman. When you say AtmaBodha, self-knowledge, self means pure limitless consciousness. In that sense, consciousness. Bodha also means consciousness, knowledge, but in a different sense. Bodha literally means knowledge, all kinds of cognitive experiences, all knowledge that we have. You're listening to me, that's Bodha. You listen, you see, hear, smell, taste, touch, all of that is Bodha. Knowledge. And what's common to all this knowledge is something called vritti. Vritti means a modification. Any modification is called a vritti. But specifically here we are talking about chitta vritti, modification of the mind. So whenever we get any knowledge, what happens is it comes to our mind. So I am seeing all of you. How is this happening? Light is falling on you. It's reflected back to my eyes. And from the eyes, it races through the optic nerves, impulses to the brain. From the brain centers to the mind, how? Nobody knows. Nobody knows till today. The link between the physical brain and the mind. But it's happening. There's no doubt about it. So in the mind, I get this knowledge, this experience. I am seeing all these people. This I am seeing all these people. This knowledge is due to that consciousness which we are. That pure consciousness. That Atman reflected in the mind as something called reflected consciousness. Again, not theoretical. The awareness that we are all feeling now. Right now, we all feel aware. Like we have a body, we have thoughts, and we are aware. Isn't it? We all feel aware. Nobody feels unconscious. To feel unconscious also, you must be aware. Right? So this awareness which we have right now, that's the reflected consciousness. This is one thing I would like to impress upon all of us, that one of the beauties of Advaita Vedanta is that it talks about our present experience. It talks about our present experience. It's not asking us to believe in anything except provisionally. It's not even asking us to get certain extraordinary mystical experiences. You can have that, but even without that, just this common experience which we have is enough for Advaitic realization, and which is the highest realization. So, when I say reflected consciousness, it sounds technical, it sounds something esoteric. What's this reflected consciousness? Because of this reflected consciousness, whatever is happening in the mind is illumined, is revealed. This is knowledge. This is Vedantic epistemology. How do we know anything at all? How do we know anything at all? We know it because through the senses, through whatever way, something comes to the mind. In the mind it sets up a wave, and that wave is illumined by reflected consciousness. It sounds complicated when I put it this way. It happens in a flash, and you can actually trace it happening in your own experience all the time. Now this is called vritti jnana. Now there is a special kind of vritti jnana, that is, vritti is a modification of the mind. Special kind of vritti jnana which happens during enlightenment, when we realize I am Brahman. That moment of realization, there is a term for that in Sanskrit, it's called Brahmakara vritti. A vritti of the form of Brahman. I'm looking at the bottle. In my mind there is a bottle akara vritti. Akara means form. So a vritti of the form of the bottle. It's a vritti, it's a movement in the mind about the bottle in my mind. Similarly, when I have enlightenment, when I realize I am Brahman, there will be a corresponding vritti in the mind called Brahmakara vritti. So, in AtmaBodha, the two words, AtmaBodha, the second word, Bodha, refers to Brahmakara vritti, the moment of enlightenment. The first one, Atman, refers to the self, which is pure consciousness. Both of them refer to consciousness. One refers to consciousness as is, as the ultimate reality, Chit. When you sing Chidananda Rupa Shivoham, that one, that's Atma. That's Atma. And the Bodha refers to the moment of realization, the flash of realization that I am Brahman. So that's AtmaBodha. Alright. Now, let's start the first verse. The book which you have got is a wonderful edition. It has the translation of the AtmaBodha, 68 verses with extensive notes. It also has a very nice comprehensive introduction to Vedanta, which is worth reading. You can give time to it, it's worth going through once. You get an overview of Vedanta. Swami Nikhilanandaji, who was in the Vedanta Center, Ramakrishna Vivekananda Center in New York. In New York, we have two centers of the Ramakrishna order. One where I am in the Vedanta Society of New York, and the other one on the east side. So Swami Nikhilanandaji, he translated this book, and he wrote an extensive introduction. Also in this book, you get translations of some of the choicest hymns written by Shankaracharya. Very beautiful, devotional and knowledge-based hymns. But one disadvantage of the text that you have is that it doesn't contain the Sanskrit original. And the reason is, of course, it was written long ago in the 1930s, where Nikhilanandaji, he thought the edition was meant for Americans at that time who would not be reading Sanskrit. They just need the English translation. But I think you have got the Sanskrit text. So those of you can, I will just chant the original Sanskrit. You can follow me if you like, and if you cannot, or if you don't know Sanskrit, don't worry about it, because everything will be translated into English. You won't miss anything. But it's still nice to hear the original sound of the Sanskrit. This is the first verse. You can repeat after me. Tapobhikshina papanam, tapobhikshina papanam, shantanam vitaraginam, shantanam vitaraginam, mumukshunam apekshoyam, mumukshunam apekshoyam, AtmaBodho vidhiyate, AtmaBodho vidhiyate. I'll read the English translation. I am composing, this is the author, Shankaracharya saying, I am composing the AtmaBodha or self-knowledge to serve the needs of those who have been purified through the practice of austerities and who are peaceful in heart, free from cravings and desirous of liberation. Okay, introductory text. What's he doing here? What he is doing here is indicating, I'll give you the Sanskrit and translate, indicating Anubandha Chatushtaya and Sadhana Chatushtaya. What's that? Anubandha Chatushtaya literally means the four preliminaries, and Sadhana Chatushtaya means the fourfold qualifications. Four preliminaries, fourfold qualifications. What would those be? The four preliminaries, It was the style in which texts were written in ancient India before studying any text. And it applies today also. Before studying any text, these are the 4 things one should know. There are 4 things one should know before you dive into any text. If you want, it's some serious study. In that case, there are 4 things you should know. First, Vishaya. Vishaya means subject matter. What's it about? What's it about? You might say this is a no-brainer. Obviously, you know what's it about when you go into a book. But these are things you must know. So, what's it about? And that allows you to decide whether you are interested in it. Is it any good for me? Whatever. Second, Prayojana. What's the point of it? The point of studying this subject. What do I get out of it? It could be anything. It could be you're reading a novel, you're getting entertainment out of it. Good for you. But you must know what you're getting out of it. Prayojana means what need is satisfied. Third, Adhikari. Adhikari means the competent reader, the competent student. Who can read this? That's why you have in the school library, books according to grades. And there are books for the little kids, there are books for the middle school, there are books for high school, and so on. Similarly, who is the reader? And there we will see the student, what qualifications the student needs. So that's the third thing. The Adhikari means the competent reader or competent student of this text. And then finally, there is something called Sambandha, which means relationship. What's the relationship between this text and the knowledge? So usually the text gives you the knowledge. Usually. There are different kinds of relationships. It's a technical thing. So, Sambandha. Vishaya, Prayojana, Adhikari, Sambandha. Subject matter, the purpose of study, or what do you get out of it. And then third is the student, the qualified student, and the fourth one is the relationship between the text and the subject. Now, so what's the subject here? Vishaya, what's the subject here? Using the word AtmaBodha, Shankaracharya skillfully tells us the name of the book and also tells us what the subject is. You see? What's the name of the book? AtmaBodha, self-knowledge. What's the subject here? Self-knowledge. The realization of who I am. So in Vedanta, all of Advaita Vedanta, the subject matter is the same. It's only one subject matter. That you are Brahman. That's the subject matter. Technically, Jiva Brahma Aikyam. The identity of the Jiva and Brahman. Jiva means individual sentient being. Us. And that we are truly limitless existence, consciousness, place. This is the subject matter. This is what's going to be taught. Second, Prayojana. What good does it do? As we already said, it takes us beyond suffering and gives us ultimate, lasting fulfillment. Dukkha nivritti ananda prapti. That's the Prayojana means the need, the purpose. What's the purpose? Going beyond suffering. Attainment of bliss. Then who is the competent student for this? Here is where we have the fourfold qualifications. Traditionally in Vedanta books, it will all generally begin with the fourfold qualifications. What are the fourfold qualifications? I will not go into details here, then the whole class will go into that. But I think many of us, we have heard of these again and again. These are what we need to cultivate. Remember, it's not that you have to have all of these to a degree of excellence. If you have it, good for you, you will become enlightened by a study of this text. If we do not have it to that required degree of excellence, then we need to cultivate it. That's the point of writing these things. That these are the things we need to pay attention to cultivate these. What are they? Viveka, from where the word Vivekananda comes. Viveka. A discrimination, a discernment between the eternal and the non-eternal. So there is some eternal reality, Brahman, Ishvara, Bhagavan, whatever you want to call it. There's some ultimate spiritual reality, ultimate reality. And everything else is non-eternal. Everything else is transient. There is also a value judgment involved here. That eternal, Brahman, God, whatever you call it, that is valuable. That is worth having. That is worth pursuing. And here, which is completely transient, which is always in a flux, which we have given value to so long in our quest for fulfillment here, that is not valuable. That has not given us, that has not lived up to its promise. And although it never promised to give you lasting fulfillment, but we thought it will give us lasting fulfillment. No. What is valuable is God. What is valuable is Brahman. What is valuable is that ultimate reality. So this is called Viveka, this discernment. Just a note here, in Vedanta we keep talking about eternal reality, Brahman. If you are trained in Buddhism, you will immediately raises a red flag for you. So remember, in Advaita Vedanta, when we talk about eternal Brahman, what we mean is that there is a reality which is beyond time. It's not eternal. It's not something that's very long lived. I'll live 100 years and Brahman lives for 1 billion years or 10 billion years. Not like that. Not like that. Not like something persisting through time. Not eternal in that sense. Rather something that is beyond time. When we realize ourselves as Brahman, we'll come to see even time is an appearance in ourselves, in our real nature. So in that sense, eternal, beyond time. However, then why are you calling it eternal? Because to distinguish it from everything else in this universe. Everything else in this universe is limited in time. Born and dying, created and destroyed, transitory. So is Brahman like that? Is it transitory? No, it's not. Therefore we are calling it eternal. And when we say Brahman is all pervading, you get the sense of here is space, here is the universe, and there is something like like a gas or something which is pervading everything. Somebody actually said, so Brahman, is it like a gas or something? No. Canadian wildfire, smoke. We got it in New York, by the way. Thanks for nothing. For a couple of days it was all red and smoky all over. Is it like that? No, it's not like that. It is something that is beyond space. In fact, space appears in Brahman. So in that sense, Brahman pervades space. Even space is not a reality in Brahman. But in order to distinguish it from everything else is limited in space. So this is not limited in space. In that sense, all pervading. Anyway. So, this is Viveka. This is followed by Vairagya. Vairagya is a dispassion for all that is transitory in this world. So we have a clear distinction. There is some ultimate reality, eternal. Everything else is transitory. That one is valuable. This is not valuable. If this is not valuable, then there must be a dispassion for it. This is there to counteract our mad rushing towards the world, which we have done for lifetime after lifetime, to counteract that conditioning. So Vairagya, dispassion for worldliness. And then the sixfold treasure. The sixfold treasure are disciplines. Shama, mental quietude. Dhamma, control of the senses. Then there is Titiksha, a spiritual toughness, that in spite of all the problems of the world, my body and all of that throws at me, I should be able to pursue my spiritual quest. I should pursue. So much effort people put in, so much suffering people put in to earn money, to get a degree, to raise a family, year after year after year of struggle. You do it. Mainly you do it, you say, I don't think about it that way as a terrible suffering. We don't because we want it. That's why we pursue it. Similarly, we should want it enough, this one, in order to pursue it until enlightenment. Like Vivekananda said, arise, awake and stop not till the goal is reached. That requires a little bit of toughness. Swami Ramakrishnanji, one of the disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, when he would see the young boys studying for their college examinations in Calcutta, late 19th century, day and night staying awake to pass examinations. He said, the effort that you are putting in to pass your examinations, with a fraction of that effort you will realize God. Maybe he was exaggerating, but there is a point there. We are capable of realizing God, all of us. So Titiksha, spiritual toughness. Then there is uparati, a withdrawal from too much worldly enjoyments. Manhattan lifestyle, Monday to Friday, in a city that never sleeps. Somebody wrote, city that never sleeps but dreams. So Monday to Friday, you work 12 hours a day, 14 hours, 16 hours a day, and then Friday, Saturday and Sunday, party hard. If you do that, there is no chance of becoming spiritual. There must be a stepping back. There is a duty to be performed, no doubt about it. But after that, make time for a weekend for attending a Vedanta retreat. So that's stepping back, uparati. This is exactly what you're doing. In fact, these qualities, when we read about it, it seems like a tall order. You feel that I don't have these qualities, so I will not become enlightened. No, we all have those qualities. You wouldn't be here unless you thought there is something worthwhile. There is something worthwhile here, this is viveka. You wouldn't be here without giving up what is called in economics an opportunity cost. The fact that you are here, you are paying an opportunity cost in terms of a relaxing weekend, watching some TV shows or something like that. You've given all those up. That's vairagya. You're sitting here quietly, putting up with little difficulties and problems here and there and trying to listen carefully. This is mental quietude. This is control of the senses also. I'm going to focus here. This is putting up with troubles. So titiksha. So then this uparati, withdrawal from the world. Then once you have withdrawn, the time and energy and mental energy we have got, the attention span, samadhana, focus, stay with it, pay attention. Samadhana. And then shraddha, a certain faith or belief in the teachings, in the text, that there is something to this. Let me hold on to it until I get the benefits and until I see for myself. So shraddha, a faith. You don't come here as a skeptic. Remember, in Advaita Vedanta we must question. By the way, we rearranged the schedule of the classes. So we have put the question answer into each session. Yeah. So the questions are important. But questions for, what's the spirit of the questions? I don't get it. I would like to know. Could you clarify this? That's the spirit of the question. Not, this guy is speaking nonsense, so I'm going to expose him now. So that kind of attitude is not going to help anybody. I know it all, you don't know, and I'm going to show that you don't know. That helps nobody. But it's also not just believing in something. If you just believe in something, Vedanta won't work for you. You must get clarity. It must be crystal clear for you what is being said here. So that is Shraddha. And finally, Mumukshutvam, intense desire for freedom, an intense desire for liberation from samsara, attainment of my true nature, overcoming suffering, attainment of fulfillment. Okay. So this is the this is the fourfold qualifications for the seeker. Now notice, Shankaracharya does not give this exact schematic. So when we say fourfold qualifications, this is a later systematization. If you go back 500 years, 1000 years, the texts generally indicate what is necessary, but not exactly in these terms, Vivek, Vairagya, that kind of list. So look at what Shankaracharya says. Tapobhi kshina papanam, by intense austerities, by leading a moral, ethical lifestyle, kshina papa, impurities have been destroyed, mind has been purified. Shanta, shanta means quiescent, peaceful, controlled. So you can see shama, dama, control of the mind, control of the senses, that is shanta. Uparati, withdrawal. Samadhana, focus, settling down, that is shanta. Shanta means peaceful. Peacefully, not peacefully lying back and relaxing on your bed, nice weekend. No, peacefully concentrating on this without distraction. Vitaraginam, and all of this is possible if strong desires are given up. Sri Ramakrishna, yesterday we were doing a little reading of the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, Kathamrita. There Sri Ramakrishna is giving spiritual instruction to a visiting group of devotees, and he says something, it doesn't happen until the time for it is ripe. So it takes time. The time it takes, not because enlightenment takes time, it's our own maturation which takes time. So, vitaragena, over time, as our strong worldly pulls are dissolved. If strong worldly pulls are there, none of this will not seem attractive, it will not seem comprehensible what's going on here. It will seem pointless. It is without any doubt at all, if I am so clear, the point of all of life seems to be getting $1 million on Wall Street. That's the point of life. Why? Well, I don't want to hear why. I don't want to think about it. That's it. It seems immensely attractive to me. In that case, none of this will take. It won't take. It won't be assimilated. Or, if one has strong desires, one might find it attractive. All of these teachings. One might find it interesting. But, as the saying goes, it's like a drop of water on a superheated pan. Superheated. When the drop of water falls, what happens? It will not get wet. The water will simply sizzle and evaporate. Similarly, you're pouring self-knowledge, the water of self-knowledge, but the mind is so heated, it won't take. So a little coolness, a little maturity is necessary. Mumukshu, so the seeker after liberation, not seeker after pleasure, not seeker after wealth. See, all those may be there in your life. As long as you're in this world, you have a body, you are living in society, there will be things which you find pleasurable. There will be a search for at least a decent lifestyle. Otherwise, you can't pursue your Vedanta also. So all those things will be there, but they are not your goal. What I want to emphasize is, if you are a mumukshu, it does not literally mean that you have to go to a top of the Himalayan peak and sit there and beg for your food and that's it. If you are here in this world in samsara, you are not a mumukshu. No. In fact, we say in the Ramakrishna order, whoever has come to Thakur, Sri Ramakrishna, if you find the teachings of this place attractive, this place means Sri Ramakrishna, Vivekananda and other, Ma Sharada. If you find it attractive, if you find Vedanta attractive, you are already a mumukshu. That's what you want actually. Mumukshunam apeksha, for them, anticipating their needs, I have composed AtmaBodha. What is AtmaBodha? We have already discussed. AtmaBodha is Bodha, knowledge, enlightenment, Brahmagyana. Atman is pure consciousness. So the knowledge about that pure consciousness, I am that. Again, very minor, it might sound quibbling, but it has to be said. AtmaBodha is a book, it's a text. Is it enlightenment? Is a book enlightenment? So no, you're holding it in your hands. Is that enlightenment? Or if you read it, is it enlightenment? No. So what's the relationship between, why is this called AtmaBodha? If AtmaBodha means enlightenment, realization, Aham Brahma, I am Brahman, in that case, why is the book called AtmaBodha? You're looking puzzled. What's the question? It's not an important question, but it's just, see, they have to be very thorough. It gives you an idea of how they thought, those people, the masters. So, the real meaning of AtmaBodha is enlightenment, Aham Brahmasmi. Secondary meaning is this book. Secondarily, because this book helps you in getting enlightenment, so this book is also called AtmaBodha. Okay. Second verse. Bodhanya sadhanebhyo hi bodhanya sadhanebhyo hi sakshat mokshaika sadhanam sakshat mokshaika sadhanam pakasya vanhivad jnanam pakasya vanhivad jnanam Vina moksho na siddhyati. Vina moksho na siddhyati. As fire is the direct cause of cooking, so knowledge and not any other form of discipline is the direct cause of liberation, for liberation cannot be attained without knowledge. As fire is the direct cause of cooking. Alright, one more thing about this book. One speciality of this book, AtmaBodha, is that it abounds in examples. In fact, in the tradition, this book is specially known for the examples, the analogies, the metaphors. Almost every verse has a nice example. Why examples are particularly important in Advaita Vedanta? Because we're trying to point out something which cannot be directly expressed in language. We always say the ultimate reality is beyond language, beyond conception. It is you, but it's beyond language and beyond conception. But the only thing that we have in our hands is language. So it's beyond language, beyond conception, true. But a variety of examples is helpful in trying to make us understand what the teacher is saying. The teacher knows what he or she is trying to convey. But because it cannot be directly said, it has to be said indirectly. And one way of speaking indirectly is through examples. Again, a little aside here. Again, not very relevant, but it struck me as interesting. One interview I saw with Elon Musk. Bear with me. I mean, whatever you think about him, you have to give it to him. He is a pretty brilliant guy. So he said there are these two kinds of thinking. Thinking through examples, analogical thinking, and what he said is called first principle thinking. And he gave an example of how he came across, how he came to design the battery for Tesla. See, he said, we love to think with examples because it's easy to understand. We give lots of examples. Everybody wants an example. When you say something difficult, say, give me an example. I'll try to understand. Now, it is easy to understand with the help of examples. But he said, if you want to do something new, solve a problem, then thinking with examples is not helpful. You have to go back to first principles. You have to go back without the examples. Example is what? Like that. Like a snake rope. Like a pot and clay. But you're talking about Brahman and the world, not about clay and pot, not about snake and rope. It's only to understand that we use these exampplles. So what Elon Musk said was, you have to go back to first principles. Go back to the actual problem and not take the help of examples and try. See, that's difficult, he said. That's difficult, but that generates solutions. Pakasya vannivat jnanam. Pakasya vannivat. So when you want to cook rice, you have the pot, nowadays there is Instapot. And then you have rice, you have water, and you have the gas going. But until the fire is there, nothing is going to happen. Until you light the fire, nothing is going to happen. Similarly, Shankaracharya wants to say, the crucial thing needed is self-knowledge, knowledge about yourself, not any other discipline. Now, we have to be careful here. When you say fire is needed for cooking the rice, it doesn't mean that you don't need the Instapot, that you don't need the rice, you don't need the water. No. All of them are necessary. But nothing is going to happen ultimately without the fire. It's not going to get cooked. Similarly, enlightenment requires self-knowledge. Once you have all the things assembled, all the necessary qualifications, practices are there, but self-knowledge has to be generated. That's what is necessary. Once you have self-knowledge, you are enlightened. Someone might ask, suppose without the other qualifications, without other practices, I just get self-knowledge somehow. Unlikely, but suppose you get. By the grace of God, by the blessings of your Guru, will I be enlightened? Yes, you will be. That's the crucial point he is making here. Suppose I've done all sorts of practices, but I don't have that self-knowledge. Then you're still not enlightened. You may be a very good spiritual seeker, a very good person, very devout, very meditative, but still you're not enlightened. So that self-knowledge is crucial. This is one of the central teachings of Advaita Vedanta. So he says here, Bodha anya sadhanebhyo hi sakshat moksha eka sadhanam. Bodha, knowledge. What knowledge? I am Brahman. Even without the other spiritual practices. What are those spiritual practices? We will see. That is enough for giving you moksha. What is that terminology we use? Sufficient condition, necessary condition, right? Self-knowledge is necessary and sufficient. The other practices which we will talk about, they are all necessary, but they are not sufficient. Okay. What are the other practices? What is the classical Advaita Vedanta view of spiritual practice? The moment you say spiritual practice, what is spiritual practice in Advaita Vedanta? The direct answer from the Advaita master would be, you haven't understood Advaita Vedanta. What practices do I need to do? The answer is neither something nor nothing. It's a understanding of Advaita Vedanta will show you practices are meant for achieving certain results. Any practice. The word sadhan in Sanskrit, it means an instrument, a method. You want to come to the Vedanta society, you need a car. The car is your sadhan. And driving the car to here is your sadhana. This place is called sadhya, the goal in Sanskrit. The goal is attained by some method. But when you yourself are the goal, you are always attained. If you are Brahman, you are here or not? Are you here? Yes. Now we have to realize that this I, somehow I am Brahman. This has to be realized. There is nothing new to be attained here. In Sanskrit they say, or in Hindi also, praptasya prapti. That which is already attained, what does Vedanta do? That which you have already got, it gives it to you. What does Vedanta do? Nivrittasya nivritti. That which was never there is removed by Vedanta. What was already there? You are Brahman. You will just get acquainted with that. What was never there? What does Vedanta remove? Samsara. It was never there. It's like waking up from a dream. That example also will be given later. Alright. So what is the Vedanta view of spiritual practice? Advaita Vedanta view. It's this. I'll quickly run through it. I mentioned it in many other talks, but this is think of it as a matrix, 3 by 3, a 3 by 3 matrix. 3 rows, 3 columns. We are being told again and again, you are Brahman. Good. That solves all your problems. We scratch our heads and say, not quite. I am Brahman, alright, but I don't realize it, I don't feel it, I don't get it. What do you mean? So I do not know this, I do not feel it, it's not real for me. This complaint which we have, this is called ajnana. In Sanskrit, in English it means ignorance. Not any other kind of ignorance. Ajnana is ignorance about our ultimate nature. If it is true that I am Brahman, it's also equally true that I don't know it yet. I mean, I have heard it, I've read about it, it sounds cool to me, but I don't feel it at all. It's not real for me. That is called ajnana, ignorance. If ignorance is the problem, knowledge will be the solution. For any kind of ignorance, knowledge is the solution. So ajnana, problem. Solution, jnana, knowledge. What ajnana? Ignorance about what? About myself. What jnana? Knowledge about myself. So self-knowledge is the solution. How will you get that self-knowledge? Method, the third column, method. First column, problem. Second column, solution. Third column, method. Method of getting knowledge, jnana yoga. Jnana yoga, the yoga of knowledge. What does it consist of? Hearing, reasoning, meditating. Shravana, manana, nididhyasana. These are terms which you have come across again and again. Hearing, reasoning, meditating. The yoga of knowledge. So this completes your first column. If you're writing it correct, you will have in your first row, 3 columns. Problem, solution, method. The first row is ignorance, knowledge. Not that ignorance leads to knowledge. Knowledge is the solution for the problem of ignorance. And how do you do that? Jnana yoga, the method of jnana yoga. We try it and say, Swami, I'm sorry to say this is not my first Vedanta retreat. I've listened to lots of Vedanta talks, and lots of knowledge. I have lots of notes and YouTube talks I've heard, but my ignorance has not gone. So Vedanta says that there is a second layer of problems. And that problem is called vikshepa. In Sanskrit, Viksepa. Vikshepa. What does that mean? Distraction, scattered mind. First problem was what? Ignorant mind. Second problem, second layer of problem, scattered mind. Scattered mind, solution, focused mind. Focus, concentration. In Sanskrit, ekagrata. Focused mind. One-pointed mind, focus. Method, meditation, Raja Yoga. I can put / Bhakti Yoga. So, meditation and devotion focuses our mind on the eternal and turns it away from the non-eternal. And then, third level. What will happen here? Why third level? Because when we try to meditate, we go, Swami, I've been trying to meditate. My mind is very restless. If I try really hard, I fall asleep. If I don't try hard, I get up from my meditation mat and go. So, this is the problem. Meditation is not working. Meditation is supposed to make my mind calm and focused and steady. It's not working. Why not? There's a third level of problem called Chittamala, impure mind. First level problem, ignorant mind. Second level problem, distracted mind. Third level problem, impure mind. We have put so much garbage in our mind over lifetime and lifetimes. So it has to be purified. Solution for impure mind? Pure mind, no brainer. Chitta Shuddhi. In Sanskrit, Chitta Shuddhi. In English, pure mind. How do you do that? The method of that is Karma Yoga. Selfless action. It's a powerful method, not that the only method. Karma Yoga. Now you have completed the matrix. Through Karma Yoga, we remove the impurities of the mind and attain pure mind. With a pure mind, when we meditate, we find mind becomes settled. When we do our devotional practices, we find genuine love of God coming. And the scattered mind is now focused. And with a purified and focused mind, when we come to Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana, hearing, reflecting, meditating, the way of knowledge, and then knowledge is generated, it removes ignorance, like a cloud has covered the sun, a strong wind comes and removes the cloud. That's the only purpose of knowledge. That example also will come. These are all examples from the book. The only purpose of knowledge, generating knowledge, is to remove the cloud of ignorance. This knowledge will not reveal Brahman to you. Brahman is always self-revealed. Atman is always self-revealed. Once the cloud of ignorance is gone, you will realize, I am Brahman. It will become absolutely clear. And the result will be liberation from sorrow, attainment of fulfillment. This is the view of spiritual practice. Let me do one more verse and we'll take some questions. Avirodhitaya karma, avirodhitaya karma, na vidyam vinivartayet, na vidyam vinivartayet, vidya vidyam nihantyeva, vidya vidyam nihantyeva, tejastimira sanghavat, tejastimira sanghavat. Action cannot destroy ignorance, for it is not in conflict with ignorance. Knowledge alone destroys ignorance, as light destroys dense darkness. Another example, notice. Darkness. How will you destroy that darkness? Will you try to scrub it away? Will you try to blow it away? Will you try to scare it with loud noises? No, you light. You switch on a light. You bring in a lamp, switch on a bulb, and the darkness goes away. Vidya vidyam nihantyeva. Just like light destroys darkness, they cannot coexist. Knowledge destroys ignorance. Vidya means knowledge. Avidya is the same as ignorance or ajnana. Knowledge destroys ignorance. Yes?
Isn't the act of switching on the light also action?
Sure. Act of switching on the light is also action. So to generate knowledge, you need a lot of action. Right? So that action is alright. But the action itself will not remove the darkness. If you switch on, keep on doing this, the switch, and there is no electricity, there is no light, that action will not remove the darkness. There is an interesting story about this, how light removes darkness. So the master of the house, you can think of an old Indian village, said to the servant, it's dark. So you take this lamp, and wherever it's dark, you just go and put it there so that it will be light. After some time, this guy comes back with the lamp, with the lantern, and lamp, and says, "Sir, I couldn't find any darkness. Wherever I went, there was no darkness." The nature of light is automatic, it dispels darkness immediately. So, vidya avidyam nihanti eva. Knowledge destroys ignorance. Two conditions are necessary for knowledge to destroy ignorance. Two conditions are necessary. Vishaya, ashraya must be same. I'll explain in English. Whatever we are ignorant about, knowledge must be about that. So if I am ignorant about history, knowledge of physics will not remove my ignorance, because my ignorance is about something and the knowledge is about something else. That won't work. So if I am ignorant about history, the knowledge of history will remove my ignorance about history. Second condition, where there is ignorance, where there is darkness, there knowledge must come, there light must come, not elsewhere. So my guru has lots of knowledge, my professor has lots of knowledge, that will not remove the darkness in my mind. My master is enlightened, that enlightenment will not light up the darkness in my mind, unless that knowledge is generated in my mind. It's again no-brainer, simple, but you have to keep these in mind. In Sanskrit, Vishaya, Ashraya. Any knowledge and ignorance, they function in this way. Action will not destroy ignorance. Why? Why not? Avirodhitaya, because there is no conflict between them. Action can take place in ignorance. In fact, action takes place in ignorance. In Advaita Vedanta, knowing myself to be this person, and I am this person, and I want to eat a cookie, then I get a cookie and eat a cookie. I had a desire, I did some action and fulfilled my desires. But the entirety is based on ignorance. Vedanta will tell us, you are not this person, Sarvapriyananda. You are not this body. You are awareness in which the body is appearing. You are not even, the desire for eating a cookie is not even your desire. It's a wave in the mind. You are not the mind. Why would consciousness want a cookie? It can't even have a cookie. It's not possible. So you are awareness, and in you the wave of this body, the mind and cookie has arisen. And forgetting that you are awareness, you identify with the body mind, say I am Sarvapriyananda and I have this hankering for a cookie. So this action with which I fulfill my desire is entirely based on ignorance. Shankaracharya's famous phrase, which he repeats a number of times, avidya kama karma. Karma is born from ignorance. It cannot destroy ignorance. If born in philosophical language, karana karya, cause and effect. That which is born from something else is called an effect. A tree is born from the seed. Milk is curd or yogurt is born from the milk. Pot is born from the clay. The pot cannot destroy the clay. Pot is the effect, clay is the cause, is the material out of which the pot is made. So the pot cannot destroy the clay. Action is born from ignorance. Shankaracharya says, avidya kama karma. Ignorant about my true nature. Then there arises desire. I do not know I am infinite existence, consciousness, bliss. I think I am this limited person. Then desire comes. And then I act to fulfill that desire. How can this action remove the original ignorance? So action is born from ignorance. Of course, remember what he was talking about. Shankaracharya always has this, what do you call it, a bugbear or like a bee in his bonnet, about the Vedic ritualists who are called the Purva Mimamsakas. There's an ancient school, does not seem very relevant to us, but they were a big deal in those days. For them, religion was performing actions, rituals. And Shankaracharya says that's not going to help you to get enlightenment. Okay, we'll stop here. How do we do the Q&A? With the microphone?
Yes.
So you can raise your hand, and the gentleman here and then the lady behind him after that.
Please say your name and the question.
Yes. And keep the question pointed and short.
Pranam Magaraj, Ananta Vilandai from Kansas. Like you explained, Advaita Vedanta has good examples like wave water, snake rope, etc. But all of them are by design indirect objects. And necklace doesn't have any tools to figure out gold. Similarly, logically speaking, the Jivatma does not have the Antakarna to break through. So what is the solution?
I'm sorry, repeat that again. Necklace
So-
doesn't have?
Doesn't have the tools to figure out gold by itself. Similarly, logically, a Jivatma does not have the Antakarna like mind.
But Jivatma does have Antakarna. We all have it, right? We have mind.
All of them are objects.
Huh?
So,
Right.
So with those objects, at the time of breakthrough, after that matrix,
Okay.
okay,
So,
what would a Jivatma do at the time of?
all right. If I understand correctly, what you're asking is it's a good question, very deep question. That asking us to become enlightened, that you realize you are Brahman with the mind. That's what it's going to do. That even when I say Atma-Bodha, that is the second bodha, second part of it. It requires the mind, and we are using the mind here. It's asking us to become aware. We are limitless consciousness using the mind, which is an objective entity. It's like asking the gold to the necklace to realize that it's gold. It can't. It can't because it's an insentient being. It has no way of realizing anything. All right. I don't know if you know, one of the greatest Kashmiri Shaiva masters, I think it was either Abhinavagupta or Utpaladeva. He said, in their system, the ultimate reality is Shiva, Parashiva. He said, actually, trying to realize, let me back up. There is a book called Vijnana Bhairava, and 112 techniques of meditation are given to help you to realize that you are Parashiva, you are Shiva yourself. Now, this master, I think Utpaladeva or Abhinavagupta, I forget, he says, actually I'll let you into a secret. All of these techniques aren't going to help you. Asking the Jiva to realize that he or she is Shiva is, with the help of the mind and these techniques and everything, is like asking a pot to realize that it is the sun. Literally says a pot to illumine the sun. Asking the pot, please illumine the sun. No, this is crazy. The pot doesn't have light of its own. Physical light. It can't illumine itself. It can't illumine any other pot or anything else, let alone the sun, because the sun does not need the illumination from anything else, from the pot or anything else. Sun is self-revealed. Now he just says this, and he says, if you have understood what I have said, you don't need any of those techniques. If not, go into those techniques. So, what it means, that example itself, pot illumining the sun, it's a very deep example. Pot is not illumined by, cannot and need not illumine the sun. It cannot and need not illumine. But the pot is illumined by the sun. And you are not the pot, you are the sun. So, all that this techniques in Kashmiri Shaivism or Advaita Vedanta, all that it can do is blow away the cloud of ignorance. Knowledge will not reveal Brahman. The mind cannot reveal Brahman. The mind will blow away the ignorance in the mind by generating knowledge in the mind. Brahman is self-revealed. In fact, Brahman is revealed just now. After we make the breakthrough, we'll see the techniques. But one thing I want to let you in here, it seems obvious, but it needs to be said. All the techniques that we will see later on, tomorrow maybe, they are meant to help us to realize that we are Brahman. But once you do, you don't need the techniques anymore. The enlightened person, when he or she wants to become centered in the real nature as Brahman, will not do Drigdrishya Viveka, Panchakosha Viveka, Avastatra instantaneously. It's continuously available to the enlightened person. Enlightened person doesn't have to start with, Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, and then go back and then realize I am Brahman. No, it's done. No technique is needed for the enlightened person because it's real. It's absolutely effortlessly available. All these techniques are to help us to remove the ignorance in the mind. That's an objective thing. It can be removed by another object. That's a problem at the level of the mind, and the solution at the level of the mind. Yeah. It's a subtle question. What thinking about? I hope all the questions are not as difficult than the lady there.
Pranam Maharaj, Paramita from Edmonton. I have two questions connected. You were talking about the vrittis and you talked about the bottle, and you also talked about the hankering after the cookie. And verse 2 talks about knowledge and how without knowledge there is no liberation. So my connected questions are, so is vritti something like memory? So when a child is born and they're seeing a cookie for the first time, has no recollection of any vritti, and or the same thing as a bottle, and then is it something similar to memory? And then the second question, which is
Wait, one by one. Is vritti like memory? Yes, and everything else. Vritti simply means modification, change. And in Sanskrit language, vritti will mean change or modification in anything. For example, in grammar, changing of the form, the declensions, they are also vrittis. So, I opened the cap of the bottle and drank water. That's a vritti, or a series of vrittis. But here we are not interested in those things. We are only interested in the vrittis of the mind, changes in the mind. So is memory a vritti? Certainly. Is pratyaksha, seeing something is a vritti? Certainly. Is tasting something a vritti? Certainly. All of these give rise to vrittis in the mind. Any change in the mind, knowledge, memory, perception, desire, remembering or forgetting, they are all vrittis in the mind. Change is vritti.
Okay. So the connected question was that what happens to all the knowledge that is banked during a lifetime? What happens to it when the body-mind complex does not exist? And it's also connected to the vrittis. Then if a new child is born, and if I don't know what happens, but do they start again?
So one is, what happens to all our knowledge? Sadly, it's all lost. When the brain is destroyed, it's lost. Not totally though. What happens is, certain tendencies remain. So if you have worked really hard in this life to learn the tabla or the violin or something like that, next life you will be born with a tendency to be musical, maybe a talent. Maybe you will be a child prodigy or something. So you will not remember what has been learnt in this life. You don't start like that. You will have to repeat all of it all over again. But it just might be that everything is so easy for you that what took years and years for your classmates, you will get it in days or weeks. I remember seeing this movie about Mozart, I think. So it was called Amadeus, right? So the court musician Salieri, so he was a great musician, but a conventional musician, very talented, and much senior to this young upstart boy. And this boy was so talented from the childhood, he was one of those child prodigies. And I remember in the movie, it's a little dramatic. I read later on, these differences were exaggerated actually. Salieri was not as bad a person as was pointed out. Salieri says that it's a torture for me to know that someone like you exists. With all my effort, with all my my talent and everything, the effort I have to put in to make one composition, without any training, just like that you're sitting and making much better compositions. How? This is like what we call a prodigy or a genius, a born genius. Where does it come from? There's nothing without a cause. So we believe it comes from previous lives. So in one sense it's not lost. If you have intensively done something, that remains, good or bad. A tendency remains. But a related question will come in the next one or two verses. Enlightenment, when you realize that you are Brahman, after you realize you are Brahman, will that knowledge remain or not? So that question will come. And Sri Ramakrishna says, no, it will not remain. It's like a thorn used to remove another thorn. A thorn has entered my flesh. What do? I take another thorn or a needle and pick out the earlier one. Then do I leave the second thorn in the flesh? Of course not. I throw that away also. I am ignorant of my nature as Brahman. Then with all of this, I generate the knowledge I am Brahman. That shows me my real nature as Brahman. Then I let go of both, the ignorance and the knowledge also. Because my Brahman nature remains. It was always there, it is there. Wind removes the cloud which was covering the sun, which seemed to cover the sun. Now once the sun is revealed, does the wind need to keep blowing? No. You might say, but the cloud will come and cover it. No. You are the sun. So from your perspective, there is no cloud and nothing ever covered you. So Sri Ramakrishna says, Upama Agdeshi. Analogies, metaphors, they work only up to a certain extent. They point out one thing. And that's why a teacher is necessary, who will tell you what the example is meant to say and what it is not meant to say. That's why the teacher is necessary. Again, Elon Musk, why this example thinking is not always good. Yeah.
Ram Maharaj, this is Jyoti Ghosh from Calgary. Question from the first chapter actually. First of all, I want to make sure that I'm not putting the cart ahead of the horse actually, because you may have this answer for tomorrow, but also the question. So you talked about 4 essential qualifications, like Viveka and Tamasama, etc. How do I know it is already within me? I need to culture that. And the second question is, if I start culturing, how about the maturation time when I know that I have the self-knowledge?
Alright, so when you have self-knowledge, that you don't have to worry about. That you will realize there will be no doubt about it at all. Enlightenment, there is no doubt. All doubts, in fact, one of the characteristics of enlightenment is all doubts dissolve. The Mundaka Upanishad puts it beautifully. Bhidyate hridaya granthi chidyante sarva samshaya kshiyante chasya karmani tasmin drishte paravare. Bhidyate hridaya granthi, the knots of the heart are dissolved. Chidyante sarva samshaya, all doubts are destroyed. There will be no more doubt, have I attained or not? If we have a question, am I enlightened, have I attained it or not, then the answer is no, you haven't. It's far safer to say that even if you have attained enlightenment, it's far safer to think that you are still seeking, rather than the opposite, when I have not attained enlightenment and to become convinced that I am enlightened. What will happen then? Nothing will happen. Suffering will teach me. Kicks and blows will teach me. The result, have I transcended suffering? I remember this young monk many years ago when I was much less mature at that time. A monk whom I know. One of the most wonderful monks I've seen, very advanced spiritually. At that time, I asked him, would you consider yourself enlightened? And he said to me, as a friend of mine, he said, no. I said, why not? He smiled and he said in Hindi, abhi bhi dukh hai, dukh hota hai. Even now, suffering afflicts me sometimes. So that's a test. If I wrongly think of myself as enlightened, don't worry, samsara will teach me. Such heavy blows will come, then I'll have to force to admit it has not worked. Reality will teach me. Reality check.
Pranam Maharaj, my name is Sanjay Deval, and I have a question about the third stanza, where it is mentioned that action is from ignorance. Action starts from ignorance. But before that, you gave an example of a table, and the third row of the table, the last part, your chitta is malin, you have to do chitta shuddhi by karma.
Karma yoga.
Karma yoga. So how come the action which is getting generated by ignorance is doing the chitta shuddhi?
Right. So it's a good question. Question might be put in this way. If karma comes from ignorance, but you're saying karma yoga will remove the impurities of the mind. So is that karma yoga? That is also action. Is that also coming from ignorance? Now remember, ignorance has these two aspects. Sri Ramakrishna put it this way. Vidya maya, avidya maya. Remember what ignorance we are talking about. Not the ignorance of a person who doesn't know anything, like silly or stupid. Ignorance, the ultimate ignorance about who am I. Now, this ignorance is there even in a good person or a spiritual person. Until that person becomes enlightened, that ignorance will persist. So, Vidya Maya, Avidya Maya. Avidya Maya is, I am ignorant of my real nature. I just want to be rich and I want to have a great time. So without any regard for any spirituality, any moral, any ethics, as long as the police doesn't catch me, as long as the IRS doesn't catch me, I will just go ahead and do whatever I like. That is unethical, an immoral life. And that is Avidya Maya. What is Vidya Maya? It's still Maya. Vidya Maya is, so all these teachings are there. I am supposed to be Brahman and that knowledge will free me from all suffering. I wish I could know that. How do I know it? Here are all the practices that are being given to me. I engage in those practices. Still feeling I am this person. It's not so easy to overcome the feeling that I am this body-mind. Still feeling I am the body-mind. Still feeling I am the doer. I try to do selfless action. That is still based on ignorance. But what kind of ignorance is it? It is Vidya Maya. It will cut the Avidya Maya.